This is Snakes and Otters, a pointless discussion of eternal questions. Get ready. We're about to live in your head rent-free.
Hello, Otterites. This is episode 246.
I am Martin.
And I'm Robert.
I am Marcus.
And I'm Andre.
All right, gentlemen, we are here in the Man Cave, Studio R, over here at my place. And listeners, as you heard, there's only 4 of us today. 1/3 of our crew is busy elsewhere, and I believe Martin has a report from the field.
Yes, so Francis has been called to Rome to work with the conclave with the passing of the Holy Father. Now, he's not, of course, participating in the conclave.
Well, he is eligible.
He is eligible.
But he's just getting the donuts and the coffee.
And the strippers.
The Cardinals like the donuts.
Now, the nuns take care of that.
The nuns are the strippers? Okay.
Oh, God, help us.
No. I didn't say they are. I said they take care of that.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like, one of those movies.
No.
Like nuns and Nazis or...
No.
Surf Nazis in love? No.
Yeah.
So Francis is in Rome. He's been called to the conclave. We expect him back next time.
Mm-hmm.
Cajun has located an island that he believes to be in international waters off the coast of Louisiana and is building a pirate kingdom with Mrs. Cajun.
So,
Formerly Epstein's Island?
No. It is uninhabited.
He is playing Pirate Lafitte.
Yes, he's building a pirate kingdom. Now,
Pirate LaFootsie.
if you find an X anywhere, just take in mind that X marks a spot does not necessarily mean there's treasure there.
Right.
It might be just where all the weapons converge.
Right. Yeah, it's treasure, but not necessarily the kind you think it is.
It's copper and lead.
Yeah. Which he will be happy to deliver to you, one piece at a time.
Yes.
At very high velocity.
Yes.
Very high velocity and a very high rate of fire.
300 feet per second.
Yes.
3,000 feet per second. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's pretty slow.
That's an arrow.
Yeah.
So that explains sort of where our confreres are. So just the 4 of us here today talk about a subject that I've been wanting to do. I have, as you heard, listeners, at the end of the last episode, I have asserted my authority.
We're respecting it.
And I have taken over the schedule because I let these boys do whatever the hell they want. And there are times, it's like, okay, yeah, I had just about enough of you guys and the schedule you've put together.
So we're going to talk about what? Sex?
No.
No?
Talk about sex, baby.
We're going to talk, although there is a lot of sex stuff going on in some of these movies.
Well, innuendo anyway.
And certainly implied stuff.
Implied.
Yeah.
Yes.
But anyways, we're doing great directors, and rather than doing directors that nobody has heard of, like we've been doing.
Now, look. Disagree. We've done great ones.
I didn't say they weren't great.
Landmark that people know. I mean, come on.
Yes. But let's face it, some of the guys we have done
As long as
are
they're
very
Gen X or
obscure
older.
to today's ears. Even
Well,
guys of our generation, you got to really be into directors.
Yes. Now, you'd have to be a cinemaphile to really know about a couple. And that was kind of the point of the episodes.
Like our what
try
was
to
the last
introduce
one
them.
we did? Oh shoot, I forget who it was, but a very low listener rate on that episode. I was kind of disappointed because it was
Bummer.
yeah. So I mean, that's the kind of thing we probably ought to pay a little bit more attention to, just to see our
But
gauging,
this director was kind of a personality in his own right.
he was. So we're doing the late great John Hughes. Although a boomer, he is
He's the-
director
Yeah.
for Gen X.
Yeah. He's the Gen X muse. Yeah.
He really is.
He tells the story of an entire generation.
He does, and he does it well. That's the thing that is so great about even his movie critics, and I don't mean critics in the negative sense, just those who critique. They all lauded his work with these teen movies because they were authentic.
Yes.
Right? Not necessarily that all of these situations happened, but that there's not a single movie that he did that kids our age watching it couldn't watch and say, "Oh yeah, I've seen that.
No,
I've seen those people."
I am that guy.
Or I am that guy, Farmer Ted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Breakfast Club.
Breakfast Club is
Breakfast
the
Club.
quintessential.
cuts to the bone for
It
our
does.
generation. I mean, it can be even hard to watch. As
It is
much
a
fun as it
comedy,
is.
but it is also a drama.
I mean,
It's almost a documentary of
In many ways, it
the
is.
Generation X had to come together and support themselves because we were products of boomer parents who, while loved
Mine are
us,
greatest generation, or well, silent generation, technically.
of
Yeah.
a generation that taught us to rely on ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. See,
I
my
mean, left
parents-
us at home alone.
Ah,
Yeah, you know, their latchkey kids were a thing.
That's
that
true.
was us.
I is a latchkey kid.
Yeah, well, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're lucky your wife gives you a key. It's like, no, you can't get in my house until I get there. I don't know what you're going to be doing in there. So, anyways, we're going to talk about John Hughes and not just his teen movies, although I think those are the ones that I am most interested in talking
Yeah.
about. I do want to talk about some of the others as well. For me, John Hughes is such a great director, precisely because of what we just talked about. He was able, even though it wasn't his, because being the boomer that he is, you know, he was died at the age of 59 in 2009. So he was born in 1950. So he is solidly early boomer. His high school experience is totally different than ours. You know, he was in high school in the early or late 60s, very early 70s.
Yeah, I mean, his high school experience would have been Ted Offensive,
Yes.
Woodstock almost, 68, Summer of Love,
Oh yeah,
Watts
mid to late,
Riots, all of that stuff.
mid to late 60s, not early 70s. Sorry, because born in 50. So he would have been in high school from 64 to he would have been there during the Johnson administration.
Yeah, I mean, he's
That's his entire high school experience.
67, 68, somewhere in there, and then starting college in 69. So, I mean,
Yeah,
he's very much of that.
he's a flower
Woodstock-
child.
He's
you
a
know?
Woodstock gen guy.
Very much. Yeah, he is probably the age we. He lived the experience that most of us think about when we think about boomer
Yeah,
adolescence, and yet he captured Gen X adolescence at the high school level. And not that there's a huge difference between kids from one generation to the next, although there are marked differences, as we are seeing today. Kids today are nothing like what we were in many ways. There's obviously always some similarities.
yeah.
But he managed as an adult to capture the whole experience. Of course, now the first movie that probably most of us were exposed to was 16 Candles.
Yeah.
Great. You could not show that in theaters today. There's just too much stuff in there that just would not fly.
Most of Gen X would be canceled in today's society.
We would, yeah.
Period.
Yeah, if we gave a flying rat's ass.
Yeah, we're Gen X. We don't.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
But 16 Candles, it was both farce as well as some commentary. You know, you've got the Molly Ringwald doesn't play the princess in this. She's more of a princess wannabe.
Yeah.
She's not the most popular girl in school, but she's got her friends. She's not an outcast. And then there's Farmer Ted, and he is the king of the nerds, the self-proclaimed, and on screen the accepted king. He is the king.
He seized power.
Yes, he has seized power, and he
seized
runs
the
things.
coup, and everybody fell in line.
Yeah. It's no wonder you like him so much. And this dynamic of Farmer Ted pursuing her while she is pining for Jake, who is, this preppy, athletic kind of dude. He is the quintessential good-looking guy in high school, wearing his Argyle sweater vest and his work boots and jeans. I mean, you can't get much more 80s than the way this guy dressed. I mean, you really can't.
He's the prom king.
He is the prom king, yeah. And of course, he's got this hot girlfriend who is really stuck up. Of course, she ends up with Farmer Ted. And that's a whole other thing. That's one of the main reasons why you could never show this. Long Duck Dung's the other reason you cannot show this movie.
Yeah. Long duck dongs, you can't. Yeah.
Where can we begin going? The cultural appropriation, stereotypes.
Well, hold on. There's no cultural appropriation. He was played by somebody who was Asian. Get Watanabe.
Yeah, Getty Watanabe. Yeah.
So yeah, there was no.
I mean, there's a little, a Japanese actor playing a Chinese kid, but
Well,
hey,
Well, we're Americans. We don't notice
we
those.
don't care.
We don't know. Yeah. Yeah, we're lucky it wasn't Mickey Rooney. Come on.
But in research for this, I found out that they're doing, Peacock is developing a series based on 16 Candles, soon to be released.
Protest, boycott.
So
Don't ruin it.
I think that's going to go over about as well as the Ferris Bueller TV show, which lasted what, like 10 episodes or something.
They made one.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the guy who did it. You know, he was. I mean,
and the ripoff was there. Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
yes,
was
and
the
that was
ripoff.
actually better than the Ferris Bueller TV show. But yes, it was very much a ripoff. Yes. But
It'll go over just as well as the remake of Red Dawn.
probably yes, yes. Because I mean, when you think about 16 Candles, all of that stuff was specific to a certain time period.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no cell phones, there's no tracking people. There's no evidence, as we always like
Yeah.
to point out.
Hey, Ted was gone all night.
All night in a essentially, well, not really stolen Rolls Royce, but he's a 16-year-old, no, less than 16 because he doesn't have his license yet.
Yeah, he was only 15.
Driving around in a Rolls Royce convertible
And do you think his parents
with
cared?
a drunk, passed out hot blonde next to him. And his parents didn't know and didn't care.
Yeah,
That's why they used
nobody
to
went looking for him.
That's why they used to have the commercials on at 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?
Matter of fact, I think Farmer Ted is why we had those commercials.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I mean that's the first one, and it is. I showed it to my kids. Showed it to.
Oh, what did they think?
Well, you know, I'm not saying they were just polite about it. That you know they laughed, but
Mm-hmm.
they.
Yeah, right, Dad.
I don't think that they could get into the. I mean, even Beckett laughed, the boy,
The boy.
but you know, I don't think he was as impressed. Now he there were movies that I've shown him that he really liked. He really liked Arsenic and Old Lace, for instance. Great movie.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, they couldn't quite get it because the cultural experience is different.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's foreign.
In many ways, it is. You know, we were, you know, that whole house party at Jake's place.
Yeah.
That's a real thing. That stuff happened.
Been there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like that stuff doesn't happen now, but I think that it probably happens less, not because the kids aren't going to do it, but I think the parents, you know, us,
Well,
It's like,
everybody's
I know.
got security systems.
I've
and
seen this
cameras.
movie.
You're
I
not
lived
destroying
this.
my house.
Right. You know, once you realize, oh hell no, there ain't no way I'm leaving you here with a full liquor cabinet and going away for the weekend and let you invite.
Oh, I mean, they did $70,000-$80,000 worth of damage to the house, probably. I mean,
oh, easily.
the
Yeah.
weights went through the floor, and
Yes.
you know, the appliances destroyed, and
Yep.
Mhm.
Not to mention landscape outside. You know, I mean, it was a thing.
yeah. I mean, we get home and it's we're gonna
No, that's-
recover from this here. Is
$70,000-$80,000 worth of damage now. Back then it was probably $10-$15.
Yeah, they
Probably a little bit more than that.
Well, you know, you get a couple of guys to just caulk that big hole in the floor.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's
just
right.
caulk it.
slap a little caulk on it.
That's right. Put a little mud over it and smooth it out. You're fine.
Yeah.
Um,
That's close enough. Hell, we'll caulk it.
That's right. So that's the first one, and you know it's not my favorite though. It really is. As we talked about Breakfast Club, because I think Breakfast Club was the complete.
Yeah, I mean, 16 Candles is Hughes finding his legs,
Yes.
doing something that the studios would
Well,
almost
I mean,
certainly approve and,
But
and run with.
before that, he had Mr. Mom and National Lampoon's Vacation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He
Yeah, I mean, he is not.
He was
Yeah, I forgot about
established.
that. I have to change my favorite from.
Well, hold on. His directorial debut was 16 Candles. He did not.
Yes, but
Yeah.
I think he wrote the other two.
He had a hand in those, yes,
Yeah.
but he was definitely.
so
It sounds like I'm going in and out a little bit
No,
here.
you're fine.
you're right.
But yeah, he definitely that was his directorial, and that was 1984. For some reason, it feels earlier than that to me, but it's not.
But
Of course,
You mentioned National Lampoon.
Yes.
That's kind of where he got his writing start.
yes,
Because
a lot of guys got their writing start.
right,
there.
Lampoon was going through a transformation about the 1980 or so.
Mm-hmm.
It's where he meets P.J. O'Rourke.
Mm-hmm.
Love the PJ connection.
Yep. And of course, this is kind of the second generation of Lampoon.
Mm-hmm.
What's Doug Kinnick?
Oh yeah.
He's kind of he's the founder, not kind of. He is the founder of Lampoon, but he's kind of moved on. You know, he's gone to Hollywood. He's involved with Animal House, Caddyshack. So as PJ takes over the Lampoon, then they're kind of bringing in this next generation of writers, and Hughes is one of those guys. He writes Christmas '58. That's the basis, basically, of the screenplay for National Lampoon's Vacation, the original. And he's involved in writing Christmas Vacation too, 'cause that's
Right.
that's another one of his articles for the Lampoon, I believe. So it's like Vacation '58 and Christmas '58 are kind of the
By the way, that is the
starting points.
best Christmas movie ever made. Period. Bar none.
Which one?
Christmas
Lampoon's
Vacation.
Christmas Vacation.
I thought it was Die Hard.
Yeah.
No, you can't fit through the air ducts.
I couldn't fit through the air ducts on my best day. So anyways, so yeah, he's got like a lot of directors, he's got a lot of writing experience of screenplays before he gets to get behind the camera. And you're right, Imperator, he does do Mr. Mom. He does several of the National Lampoon movies. And once he Mr. Mom gets him that 3-picture deal with Universal.
Yep.
That's the one that seals the deal for him. And, he's, I want to back up a little bit because we kind of went straight into the movies because, all excited to get to that. He was actually born in Michigan.
Yep.
So a Michigander.
Lansing.
Moved to, we forgive that part. Moved to Chicago at some point. I didn't catch the timing, but
Teenager.
all of his movies are the teen movies are set in Chicago area.
Suburbs.
Chicago
Yeah.
Shermer, Illinois is the quintessential place. Now, Ferris Bueller and Breakfast Club, from what I understand, take place at and in the same universe.
Yes. actually, the same high school because
He uses that high school a lot. Yeah.
in Breakfast Club, there is a thing in there, a poster on the wall about Bueller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember
Breakfast Club came out a year before Ferris Bueller.
I know it was a Easter egg before Easter eggs were.
Well, anyways, so he sets everything in this, which I think is great because I love a shared universe for your stories. I think, King does that with his books, which
Maine.
no, not just that. I mean, a lot of his stuff really does take place in the same universe. Yeah. As well as the same multiple universes. But that some of that was a little bit more later. But he's doing all these teen movies, and it's not just the high school stuff, right? So we've got 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, Weird Science, which is a little bit of teens in college, and then of course we've got Pretty in Pink and Some Kind of Wonderful. So you've got a string of just classic teenager angst, learning how to deal with the world kind of stuff going on, and at the time, most of the people in this, they were not names, right? He made them names.
He launched a lot of careers.
He did. Molly Ringwald would not be who she became without him. I don't think that Anthony Michael Hall would have, because when you think about him at age 15, he was going to be pegged to play that nerd and that geek forever if he ever got a shot at anything. But then, of course, once he beefed up a little bit, by the time Edward Scissorhands comes around, he's actually a good-looking dude with some muscles.
Johnny Be Good, right? The football movie. He played it like.
Oh, yeah.
He went from playing the nerd to playing a football, a high school quarterback.
Yep. Which is, just astounding.
Yeah.
In and of itself.
Bizarre.
So then after the teen movies, which, pretty much 87, he's pretty much done with those. So it's just a 3 or 4 year span where these 5 or 6 movies come out. The man was busy in the mid 80s.
Yeah.
And the 90s were his commercial success with, one we haven't even mentioned yet.
Well, we're going to get there. We're still in the 80s, man.
We're at the end of the 80s.
87 still has 3 years of 80s to go.
Yeah,
but there's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Great movie, John Candy and Steve Martin. Just fantastic movie. Of course, now that, you can just let those guys, all right, we're going to roll the camera.
You just do your thing.
Here's the general idea we're going for. You let us know when you're done. And I think you could have a movie that's marketable. Uncle Buck was another one that was great. Of course, did Christmas Vacation after the teen movies in this period.
Well, he didn't direct it, but he would.
Well, yeah. But he was his final film was a director though, which I didn't realize this was 1991. That's Curly Sue.
Mm-hmm.
So he is done, which I didn't realize he was done with directing that early.
Yeah.
I just figured it was just stuff I hadn't really paid that much attention to, but that's interesting. That because that's 20 years basically, where he was not doing directing.
Mm-hmm.
Now he still had a hand in a lot of movies like Home Alone. That was his biggest commercial success. And of course, there's Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, and Home Alone 3.
Yeah.
And and then he still wrote and produced quite a bit. Dennis the Menace. Now, it may have been a box office flop, but one of my all-time favorite Goofy movies, Baby's Day Out. That movie is frickin' hilarious. It is Lara Flynn Boyle as the mom. It is Joe Mantegna and other guys you would recognize who are trying to kidnap this baby, who leads them on a merry chase unintentionally. He's just out, giggling and having a great time. And it's almost like a baby doing a Home Alone to these guys trying to kidnap him. It's a phenomenally funny movie, as long as you're not looking for highbrow stuff. I mean, it's not, it's a little slapstick, but it is funny as crap. Just fantastic stuff. One interesting thing, he also wrote screenplays under a pseudonym, Edmond Dantes. And that's of course after Dumas's novel for Count of Monte Cristo. And that includes Made in Manhattan and Drill Bit Taylor, which I've never heard of.
Also
and
a horrible
Beethoven.
film.
Drill Bit Taylor. That sounds familiar. What is that? Is that the
this
one where it's like My Bodyguard a little bit? Somebody hires a
I
guy
don't know.
Yes, but it's they hire a low bit bodyguard. 3 kids hire a low bit bodyguard, played by what's his name with the crooked nose?
That narrows it down.
No, he's known for his crooked nose. His brother also acts. Not very well, but still.
You're talking about one of the Turturro brothers, then?
No.
Well, anyway, I mean, we have human. All the sum of human knowledge is in Robert's hand. He'll look it up in a minute.
Yeah, well, I'm not even going to bother. So, anyways,
Nobody else did either.
exactly.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm going to drink. So
There you go. So, in his personal life, I find kind of interesting because, in many ways, it's typical boomer. He met his high school sweetheart and then married her in 1970 to Nancy Ludwig, and I think that's great. High school sweetheart, and they had 2 kids, John Hughes III and James Hughes, and they were together until his death. They were a lifelong couple.
Well, that is a boomer story.
That is a boomer story. Although I don't know, a lot of boomers they got there's a lot of divorces
and cocaine addiction is more of a boomer story.
Yeah, 70s and 80s are all those divorces, those were boomers. So there's a lot of that. But I mean, when you think of somebody who was born in 1950, that kind of makes sense because that's his cultural background.
Yeah, his lifelong.
But the point is that he's one of those few rare people that met his wife to be, married her, and stayed with her in Hollywood. Although he professionally retired from public eye in '94. So by the time he was not really in the. Granted, he probably made enough money; he didn't need to be in the public eye anymore.
I think it's worth noting that he lived in Chicago. He visited L.A. to work and then went back home.
Right. Well, so he had his finger, I think, in enough pies going on where he had whatever money he needed, but also he had that creative juice going.
Yeah, he had an income stream, and then, of course, there's always Home Alone's. I'm sure still paying money out to his widow.
Right,
She
exactly.
died in 2019.
Well,
to the kids.
the kids are still cashing checks on their because that's a
The
film
Trust.
that plays all the time.
Yep.
The individual I was thinking of was Owen Wilson.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Owen and Luke Wilson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Drill Bit Taylor.
Yeah, you're right. He does have a crooked nose. Yeah.
Yes. He's not a great actor either.
Oh, I think he does the parts that they choose him properly for. I think he does fine.
Yeah,
He's a commercially successful actor.
But
let's say that.
He is.
Well, he plays himself. Oh, now here's one. I mean, you want to talk about the worst actress in the world, Jennifer Lopez.
Nobody watches her movies for the acting.
I don't see why they'd watch her for anything else.
You sound like our friend in Michigan. He gets a negative view of somebody,
Horrible.
Yeah.
and
I mean, she's not. She has a limited skill set
Well,
as an actress, but not
I,
not completely
I,
horrible.
I think she's kind of like the. It's kind of like the Little Mermaid thing. She exchanged her singing voice for eternal youth to Satan.
so what do you think that Selma Hayek gave then?
Selma Hayek's just unbelievable. She's
Now,
a goddess.
so for some reason, Jennifer Lopez is evil incarnate, but if we're doing apparently the same thing, okay, I see. It's whatever. Dude.
Well, I mean, this
I think you're a little inconsistent,
But
but whatever.
Selma Hayek never tried to sell herself as a singer.
Jennifer Lopez sings.
No, she
And
doesn't.
So this is why we need hold that thought on a button.
We really do.
I get-
So-
what
Because
about-
see, this
what
is
about
an
the-
example of the Imperator just likes
The
to
agonizer.
be contrarian just to be contrarian.
No,
No, you.
I just don't like her.
That is your excuse to be contrarian to be contrarian.
We didn't
dude.
pick up on that.
Yeah.
So anyway, hold
So-
that thought.
Yeah, hold that thought. So I want to talk about the elephant in the room because that's the one. Andre, jumped the gun and brought up the movie. But Breakfast Club. That is the movie.
Yeah.
That is, of course, the Simple Minds song.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is the soundtrack to that movie is great. But that song is one of those that is you see in a lot of memes about no one song can summon a generation.
Oh, that can.
And absolutely, that's always the first one that comes to mind. And by half the videos that I've seen, that's what they're playing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because everybody immediately responds to that. Don't You Forget About Me is, in many ways, it could be the anthem for our entire generation.
I'll sign that.
Yeah.
Because
It's-
our entire generation was forgotten by our.
Everybody,
Yeah.
which I am fine with for the most part. Mainly because I really do like sitting back, eating a little bit of popcorn, and watching all of them
Mhm.
screw with each other,
Well,
or try to screw with us. It's like you're not nearly as good as you. Yeah.
and this is why at our age we're get off my lawn and mind your own business and leave me alone.
Well, part of that I think is also when you're left to your own devices. It's like, you know what, this is my kingdom because ain't nobody here to tell me no.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's kind of our parents' fault for they had unintentionally cultivated that attitude towards the world in us.
Yes.
Because it's true when you are left to your own devices, we had nobody to tell us what to do.
We are kind of a generation that basically whatever's out there, we just figure it out.
That's right.
There's
That is right.
not a
Yeah,
lot of
this is
crying
true.
about it or anything. It's just like,
No bitching and moaning.
we'll figure it out.
And we in many ways you do see this somewhat in John Hughes's movies.
Mm-hmm.
There's no whining about things. In the sense that, oh, woe is me, my life is
Well, I mean,
ruined.
we go straight from we pass whining right to either catatonic or attempting to kill ourselves with a flare gun. And it goes off in our locker prematurely, and we get detention.
Right, but that's kind of my point, though. I mean, we take action, and,
Yeah,
and then we deal with the consequences.
We got detention. We weren't arrested instantly.
The SWAT team wasn't called out.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
But of course-
Again,
and-
very different environment.
And
you know?
child protective services didn't exist, or at least nobody had heard of it back in our day.
Well, probably back then it wasn't looking at the part of the population that we come from.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, it would have been too late when you start talking about teenagers. So,
well, yeah.
Well, that too.
they would have.
Well, I mean, kids walk to the store, picked up their parents' smokes,
We did.
Guilty.
wow,
Yeah.
and walked alone.
Yeah.
And they sold them to us.
Yes, and they did.
In smaller towns, they would have sold you the 6-pack for your dad too.
Oh yeah.
So, anyways, Breakfast Club. You got the princess, the nerd, the jock, the outcast, the basket case, and then of course you have their nemesis, Vernon.
Yes.
And then, of course, the wise sage in Mr. Johnson, the
Janitor.
janitor.
And there was supposed to be another kid at that movie, and they actually filmed him in it. And that was Bueller.
No, they
Bueller,
didn't.
yes, Bueller was actually one of the characters in that. He was cut. He actually did some filming during the filming of the movie.
As with a lot of claims, that'll be something we'll have to Google during
Independently verify.
Independently verify.
No, we've got that.
So, anyways, these stereotypes, and that's what they are. They are definitely stereotypes, and they represented all of the major cliques in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure a lot of those cliques still exist.
Oh yeah, they do.
And I'm sure there are some additional ones because everybody's got to have their own identity, and we're divided up even in high school even farther than we were back then. Of course, you also had your subgenres that aren't talked about there with the cliques, because you had your band geeks and your theater people. And,
Yeah, the drama club group. Yeah,
stuff like that. But each one of these stereotypes represented pretty much all of my high school experience.
They represented how different environmental situations responded to pressure.
Yes.
So the ones with at least some kind of support system responded to pressure in different ways than Bender basically has no support system.
Well, but you know what? I don't think any of them have a support system. I think that because, again, they're Gen X.
Yeah.
Well, they had...
Because you look at the princess.
Yeah.
She has this fake relationship with her parents where the parents are always fighting. They're not concerned about her except as leverage against each other. The jock is his support system is, you better keep your grades up so you can get into school and not blow your scholarship.
Yep.
The nerd, his support system is, you got to get an A, and if you don't, it's so awful that I got to kill myself. And of course, Bender, you're right. I mean, his support system is a backhand slap to the face, and with the basket case, there is no. I mean, that is probably the total lack of any and all parental supervision of any kind.
Again, the reason the generation was given the forgotten generation, they had no support system other than themselves.
Yeah, I mean the parents had their own priorities and
well, it's the
moved
first.
on.
We are the children of the first generation where mom and dad both worked almost universally.
Yes.
Now, granted, it came later at least for us because we're all early Gen X. Well, you're a little bit later than us, but for the most part, we were all early Gen X. So at the very least, our moms went to work after we started school. They weren't necessarily when we were little, but once they went, they never came home. Right? And that is the milieu.
Word boner.
Word boner.
Because I know Martin likes that word.
Yeah, there you go.
I almost used ethos earlier because
that's also an excellent.
It's an excellent, yeah, because he captures the ethos of the time. Was how I was going to use that. So how all of these individuals interact, even though they represent groups, they're still individuals.
Right.
And that's why this is such a great. This movie is not just entertainment; it is a great psychological study. Of our generation.
And again, when we talk about the pressure on them, the parents' reaction would have been, "Well, what pressure? You're a kid."
Right.
It's like, well, guess what? You're the one putting all the pressure on us.
If you don't stop crying, I'm going to give you something to cry about.
The entire movie, there's an underlying thing that I think we all miss. Vernon gives them an assignment of writing a 1,000-word essay. Who do you think you are? The entire movie is research into that paper.
It is. And, getting Brian, the nerd, to write it at the end. That's also the typical cop-out. You always get the smart kid to do all of the work in your group project.
Yeah.
But the letter that he writes to Vernon was perfect.
It is the Gen X statement. It doesn't matter who we think we are. You're going to still view us as you want to view us.
Exactly.
And that's not who we are.
And in many ways, that's true of every young generation coming up. They have to deal with what their parents and other adults think they are. So in a way, that is, I'll grant you this, that is a little universal. But certainly, John Hughes in this movie expressed it better than I think it's ever been done and possibly ever could be done. But I love how you have all of these cliques, different represented cliques by these kids, figuring out how to interact with each other again. Because remember, that's the thing about high school cliques. Prior to getting to high school, at least probably through up until the 7th grade, maybe 8th grade.
Yeah, 6th, 7th grade, that you didn't exist.
Right. The cliques did. I mean, there was some clickiness,
But you were basically friends with everybody.
but you were friends with everybody.
Yeah.
Once puberty hits, that's when things go to hell.
Well,
But they have to negotiate how to start understanding and hanging out with each other. Understanding that Bender's dad used a cigarette lighter or a cigarette
as punishment.
as punishment, to burn his, or a cigar. Sorry, it was a cigar. To punish him for spilling paint
in the garage.
in the garage.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of stuff that we all kept hidden.
Oh yeah.
If you had that kind of, I mean, we are the last generation that really never really availed itself of therapy.
What's that?
Exactly. Therapy was
Till
this
now.
is our therapy right here. This is our group therapy in a lot of ways. But
John Hughes is facilitating.
and John Hughes is yeah.
Psychology.
But I mean, they had to work all this stuff out on their own and figure all this stuff out. And granted, it's fiction. I get that. But he showed how they're all a lot more alike than they think they are.
Yeah.
They're all broken in many ways, but they all have their strengths. And, they learn to recognize that in each other. Not just the strengths, but the brokenness and why you are the way you are. So in many ways, it's a great example of, look, kids, this is you're going to do this probably in college or maybe as an adult, but this is how you do it. You negotiate your way through all of the weird crap that all of us have going on, and you find that common ground. It started out, the common ground was just hatred of Vernon.
Yeah.
Or hatred of parents.
Yeah. Of authority.
Authority. Yeah. Authority. Yeah.
Even for Brian, who's basically bent to authority his whole life.
Right.
He's the one that would go along. He's a neo maxi zoom dweeby.
Thank you. Hang on.
Word
Yeah.
boner.
Oh,
That gets the word boner. I was hoping you were going to come up with that.
What would you be doing if you weren't making yourself a better citizen?
Right. He has a fake ID. Why do you have a fake ID?
So I can vote.
So I can vote.
Of course.
So again, right? You're absolutely right. It's this. We've because of the situations we've all fractured. How do we come back together?
Yes.
How do we figure out that you don't discard the basket case?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is one of the things that makes that movie one of my favorite all-time movies, is that it shows you that despite the brokenness, and maybe sometimes because of it, that is your way into creating these relationships with one another. That just because you've got something wrong with you doesn't mean you should be discarded. Doesn't mean you're not a person. Because that whole scene when they're smoking their doobie at the end, and they're talking about what happens on Monday, and when they all, it's like, are you gonna, take Brian out and smoke a joint with your buddies? Are you gonna talk to me? Or are you just gonna laugh behind my back and say that you were doing it with me? Claire says to him, and of course, Allison and Brian, they're the only two that would stay friends because they don't have any friends anyways. As she said, I don't think the kind of friends I would have would care, which is in many ways that's very true too. Because for the most part, high school aside, that's who we became. The kind of friends we'd have, we don't care about that crap. Our common experience is more important.
Yeah.
Which is surprising because we were all very individualistic. Yes, we're all individuals.
I'm not.
Thank you.
But you bring that apart up, and
Isn't that an Apple commercial?
No.
That is Apple.
That is Apple. Everybody's an individual. All of us.
Yes.
yeah.
All in the same way.
Yes.
What happens on Monday?
That's the key.
Once you have that kind of an experience, that cathartic experience,
Word boner.
then what does happen on Monday?
And I like to think that come Monday, the relationships did not stop. That after they got through that little crucible at the end,
Yeah, I think so. I think that
A new clique was formed.
yeah, and it was when Claire's friends. Well, why are you talking to that guy?
Aren't you guys
No,
the optimist here?
He's okay. He's okay.
You know, there was talk of doing a sequel to The Breakfast Club that died with Hughes, and you know the theme was going to be they all met in college and they were all opposites of what they were in high school.
I could see that. I mean, I could
I would pay
as a
money to watch
story.
that movie.
I don't think I would want. I don't know that I would want to see a sequel to that movie because I like the way it ended. I didn't need to know any more of that story.
Yeah.
I think the way they ended it tells me everything I need to know about it. Do I expect those characters will be friends in 40 years? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I only am friends with one guy I went to high school with. But then again,
But at the reunion, they definitely made time
oh, absolutely.
to go
Absolutely.
aside and say, "I still love you, man,"
Yep.
Or smoke a joint.
or smoke a joint.
So, yeah, or have some edibles for the joint pain.
Mm-hmm.
Because
It's medicinal now.
it is
Yeah, it
medicinal. All right, so I think it is time for
Oh yes.
Urban break.
bourbon break. All right. So did we all three poured the same thing, correct?
Yes.
We did.
All right. So this is I opened up the bottle today. Would you like a little help there? Of
I
the
just have to groan a lot.
Log Still Distillery and Archdiocese of Louisville joint venture called Faithfully Crafted, and it is very good juice.
Mm-hmm.
It is a little interesting in that the Archdiocese has put their seal on it. Yeah, which is
limited run, 5,000 bottles, right?
yeah, something like that. Yeah,
5,000. Mm-hmm.
and it is it was a $65 bottle, so it's standard pricing. They did not jack the price for this.
No.
And it's a very good bourbon. It is a very smooth, delicious bourbon. My pastor likes to call this the blasphemy bourbon
Mm-hmm.
because of this joint venture. Because his point is, we would not expect the archdiocese or any diocese to go into a joint venture with McDonald's for Lent to do the Archdiocese of Louisville fillet of fish.
No.
We would consider that a wrong thing to do.
We may do edibles soon.
I was
Maybe.
going to say you might as well. That's got to be the next step is find somebody
Edibles.
that's doing CBD and edibles and things like that. And
Corporate
is it-
sponsorship could become a
or
thing. You know, as
in-
we
in-
started
yeah.
talking about conclave, one of the leading candidates is Cardinal Pizzaballa. I've heard that Papa John's wants a corporate sponsorship should he become Pope.
Yeah, somehow I think that's the last thing that will ever happen is corporate sponsorship. Maybe of the event, Papa John, the 2025 conclave brought to you by Papa John's. Yeah, it's like all the football bowl games.
This ends up as
they have to use the old boxes to make the smoke.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. They leave little bits of sausage stuck to the bottom to create the black smoke.
Yeah.
The unused boxes or the ones that are clean, they use for the white smoke.
I work here at- I work
the ironic part is it was probably a tourist that rang the bell signifying that he was dead. So then they just had to kill him.
Anyways,
Hold that thought.
So
My
the
work
bourbon.
here is done. I made Brother Andre laugh
Yeah, there you go.
with using the pizza boxes to make the smoke. So.
Yeah.
The bourbon is very good. They're going to do 2 more bottles of this unless they are backing out. I don't know. I imagine there's a contract they can't back out. But there was some hue and cry over the thing from quite a few corners.
Well,
Some were complaining about because there are issues with alcoholism. And you're promoting a bourbon. It's like,
To be fair, this was done by a prior.
no.
Well, he came in after it was
No,
all
no,
signed.
no.
I thought.
Nope.
Nope.
It was
No?
not. It was not.
Oh,
No,
I
we thought that might be the case. That his
Yeah,
hands were tied
That's
because
what I had heard.
But no. If you heard that as a definite, it wasn't
No,
from
no, no.
us. Because our conjecture was that this was
Okay.
from the prior administration,
Yeah.
but it was not.
Mm.
Again, I don't know how it was presented. Whatever. A lot of people had a problem with it. Most people did not. But the bourbon itself is very good, smooth,
Yes.
sweet, just excellent bourbon.
I mean, a typical log still.
Yeah.
Mhm. It's got a great nose.
Yeah, the nice vanilla.
Mhm.
Vanilla
That's the
on
one-
on the tongue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to
it
say
just-
caramel.
Yeah.
Well, you're almost always going to get a little bit of vanilla and caramel in a bourbon. Some are just more pronounced than others.
Yeah.
When I took it unbloomed, I had a very peppery feel on the tongue, but as it's bloomed, it is severely mellowed, and there was a smoothness on there, and I was attributing it to caramel. But when you said vanilla, that popped. I feel that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it just goes down really nice, and just not any kind of harshness to it
Yeah,
at
it's
all.
very
At all,
smooth.
yeah.
It's a very smooth blend.
It is. It is one of those things that again, I don't know which juice they're using, if it's just their standard stuff or if they did something special to it.
I don't know.
But when you taste it, it tastes like a log still to me. It's got a certain
it is
profile.
a Dant family thing.
Yes, not that they can use that in any of the
No, they
advertising
can't.
or trade or marketing.
Yeah,
No.
you can't use J.W. Dant,
Yes.
Yeah.
but I mean, Wally can use his name. And
Yes, but I mean, yeah, well, even so, they got to be careful how they use his name
Yes.
because of the Dant name. But it really is good. I don't know if it's true, but I hope that some of Cajun's corn went into this because that would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, it did turn out to be an excellent bourbon, and I like it quite a bit. Brother Andre, do you have any other comments on the bourbon?
I've been looking for it, but evidently it's still limited release. So
I
it's
don't.
kinda
Yeah,
hard
it's
to
probably all gone by now.
It's only in 2 places.
Yeah, if you don't go to the gift shop at the distillery
Mm-hmm.
or the restaurant downtown, you won't be
Yeah.
able to get it. And even then, it's probably all gone by now.
Okay. Well, okay.
Call those places and see, though. They'll tell you if they have any.
yeah, I mean, the restaurant may have a few bottles left.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Uh,
But those are only 2 places you can buy it direct.
yeah, it was 5,000 bottle release, and
Mhm.
and it was, kind of meant as an attractant to
Yeah.
those locations.
And
Yes,
Cajun was
to bring-
buying them. Cajun was buying them by the case.
So it was, the release kind of coincided with the opening of the restaurant.
It did.
So it
did.
was a little bit of marketing for the Boiler House restaurant.
Yep. One quick thing, because I think we had finished recording before this event happened. So as the Brotherhood knows, Bosco has gone to his eternal reward.
Across the Rainbow Bridge.
Across the Rainbow
Across the-
Bridge.
yes, and he was 11 days short of his 13th birthday.
Mhm.
So he lived a good life. He was very pampered, at least when he would allow himself to be.
Mhm.
He was almost a Gen X dog because
Yeah.
he was a grumpy old man when he was a young boy. He was not a cuddler like some dogs are. Even though he was part beagle, he was a beagle hound mix, a big guy. He was not a cuddler like most of them will be. Now, if he did want to be petted, though, he would back his butt into your legs while you're sitting someplace, or just sit on you if you're on the floor.
Yeah, he did have that weird ass.
And
fetish
he
thing.
he would just wait for you to start rubbing his belly, scratch his back, whatever. And so he's gone. The whole family was with him. Well, that's not true. The oldest and the youngest got there about 5 minutes after he passed.
Mm.
They didn't quite make it in time, but the middle child, Mrs. Robert and I, and Nemo were all there with him, petting him and talking softly to him. And
Mhm.
he did not seem to be in any pain. I had old man discomfort. So I did not let my dog suffer. So don't think that. But we did not have to take him into the vet. Thank God. I'm so grateful that he was able to pass at home. So a toast to Bosco,
Tabasco and all the pets that we've loved and lost.
and also great a toast to Cajun as well, and Mrs. Cajun, for allowing us to bury Bosco next to Mrs. Cajun's. I got to remember to make that transition now to
just
her
call her
beloved
Cajun
pet.
Net.
She can still keep Ms.
She can, but Cajun uses the misses, so
does?
that's what I use. Yes, I try to use that.
Understandable.
We got to bury him out there.
Mhm.
He did a really nice thing, ring the grave with the stones like they did with her dog.
Mhm.
The ashes that I had for my 2 prior dogs, I'd never done anything with because up until 2018, we'd never actually owned our own place. And I didn't want to do it here. I just never got around to doing anything with him. So all 3 were laid in a single grave out there at the farm. He did a very nice thing for us in letting us do that. Be eternally grateful for that. And it's always nice because now we got to Cajun a couple times a year. I can go visit. And as I said, when we put him into the ground, he was a good dog.
Mhm.
He was an asshole, but he was a good dog.
Yeah, that's
What an eulogy.
pretty much every dog's eulogy. You could be a
It's always good to have a friend with a backhoe when you need to get rid of bodies.
It is. It really is.
So to speak.
The house is empty without him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a little bit better. Mrs. Robert, it hit her a lot harder than she thought it was going to, which I'm not surprised. But you know,
I should have brought a cat for you.
and that statement is being met with an icy stare,
Yes.
listeners, that you can't see.
yes,
Hold that
I think the
thought.
silence was palpable there.
Deafening.
Yeah, no cats here. I mean, we have a grand cat, but you know, even the grand cat doesn't visit because it's a cat.
It's a cat.
Yeah, come on. Cats are
mean,
superior
what-
to dogs.
Yes, they are.
He's just going to stare at you with contempt. So
Dogs-
it doesn't matter.
Cats rule, dogs drool.
Dogs have us trained way better than cats do.
Oh, that's what you think.
But also to touch on you commenting you didn't have to take your dog to the vet. In preparation for what we know is coming, we've done some
Yes.
research. There's at-home euthanasia available where
That there is.
a vet will come to your home.
Oh, I thought you meant you like give the dog
Oh,
the
no,
shot
no,
yourself. And
no.
it's like,
Yeah.
no.
I'm all about
Something like a 9mm.
I'm all about DIY, but not
Not that. Yeah.
No, the vet will. It's actually illegal for you to euthanize your own pet.
Interesting.
Only a veterinarian can do so.
Yeah.
So you can call the veterinarian; they'll come to your home and.
So your horse breaks a leg,
My-
you can't shoot it yourself.
My sister's soon-to-be ex-husband
Do they know
Took-
this is coming?
took
Which sister?
Cheryl
Okay.
took one of the dogs hunting. The dog didn't realize it was being hunted at the time,
Didn't come
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
but it never came back.
Yeah. I did not have to do that for any of the 3 dogs that I've had since 11. I've had 3 dogs. That's it.
Well,
They all lived good long lives. 16, 11,
Evidently.
and 13.
but that ex-husband also wanted to take my children to a cockfight, which my wife did not allow.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought that was your job, is what you were going to say.
No.
So, anyways, that's
Welcome to Kentucky.
Yeah, right. So just the house is empty for now as far as pets. Probably we'll get another dog at some point, but as I told Mrs. Robert, I get to pick the dog this time
Hairless Chihuahua.
because the last 2 dogs I have not picked. They were picked for me. So it's like this one's mine.
You can go back to bunny rabbits.
No, they're too much work.
Bruiser. Yeah.
And but as much as I love the bunnies and they're cute and everything, they are good to have in an apocalypse though, because as long as you have enough
Hassenpfeffer.
food for them, you
You've
will
got
never
food.
go hungry.
The German heritage comes out, and I think of Hassenpfeffer.
Exactly. So, anyways, that's just something I wanted to bring up. Any other notable deaths or passings we need to
Well,
talk
I mean,
about?
there
Did
is
we-
kind of one.
We've alluded to.
Did we cover
I mentioned
Georgie?
Conclave.
Did we cover Georgie dying at one time?
I don't think we have.
Yeah.
I don't. You got to bring up your own animals.
Yes.
So
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
yes.
service
My,
cat.
my service cat had to be. She ended up with a tumor that was leaking on her one lung, and they had
Yeah.
to euthanize her.
yeah, which is a shame.
Yeah.
That's always hard.
Well,
Um,
the other 2 cats that were bonded with her
Mhm.
went into severe depression, and
How could you tell?
well, Edna lost 2/3 of her weight. And
Oh.
Diesel,
Okay, yeah.
Diesel lost half her body weight,
I thought
Yeah.
they just increased.
and they're
the
just
Zoloft.
Yeah.
they're just now getting back
And they
Yeah.
say, then they
after a few
stare at you with
months.
more contempt.
Yes, when
Uh.
the pastor's dog had to be put down at Christmas, the other dog he had, the first one, which is like a year or 2 older than
Mhm.
Lizzie, didn't really seem to be affected.
Yeah.
It just really it depends. You never know how the dogs are going to take it.
They kind of understand that members of the pack will come and go a little bit.
Well, now Nemo, it was interesting because again, Nemo was here.
Yeah.
Nemo was Nemo. You could tell Nemo knew something was going on because
they'll know.
he was very skittish around Bosco. Like he would come up and sniff at him and back up and come up. It was very. And then once he passed, he came up. It was really funny because we had covered him up.
Mhm.
Nemo came up and booped him with his nose,
Yeah.
as if to say, "Hey."
No,
but he stayed away, which is very unusual because usually he wanted so much for Bosco to play with him early on, and then he settled for, well, how about we just touch? Because Nemo's one of those dogs that, like, if he got on the couch between me and Brother Andre, he would stretch out so that his back part or his front part, one part would touch Andre, and the other part would be touching me. He had to be touching people, and that's okay for dogs.
That's how
not
dogs
for other
sleep.
people.
Yeah.
So I can't come over and touch you?
No,
Can't snuggle?
no. Well, snuggle maybe. I don't know.
I think we've
Depends-
snuggled in the past, haven't we?
Spoon.
possibly.
I got pictures of us kind of
Probably.
snuggling.
It was just to
Yes.
conserve body heat in that winter storm.
No,
Well, you can tell yourself that.
because we recreated one of those photos.
We
of
did.
us
Well, I wouldn't call that snuggling though. That was us posing. The original photo was us posing.
posing.
Yeah.
Yes, we were posers.
But anyways,
Did you do the Klingon death scream so that
I did
so
not.
that the other warriors in Stovo Corps would know there was a warrior dog joining them?
So, we
Bosco was not a warrior dog.
what I did was I brought Georgie afterwards. I brought her body back so that they could all know what happened.
Yeah.
Uh,
Nemo, he got to tell, and
Yeah.
I think he was a little discombobulated the first several times he came over, because Bosco wasn't there,
Bosco.
Where's my buddy? Where's my buddy?
and it's not like they played together or anything, but Nemo was now. There was jealousy between the two. Like if you started petting Bosco, Nemo would be all up in your face. It's like, hey, don't forget about me.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Don't
But anyways, that's
forget
enough on
about me.
Bosco.
Yep.
He's gone. He is missed. But we're coping. We're
Yep.
coping.
So a quick comment on the passing of the Holy Father.
Yes. So the other big passing is, of course, Francis. By the time this episode comes out,
Not our Francis. but
Pope Francis,
Pope Francis.
it is quite possible that we will have a new pontiff by the time.
I would
this,
certainly
by the
hope
time this
so. That's
airs-
another
well,
the end of the month.
Probably.
no.
no, this
Conclave starts on the 7th,
Yeah.
and the 9th is the day this episode will.
yeah.
So theoretically, there could be one
Before this episode.
before.
comes out.
But highly unlikely.
It is unlike. I think
Might be the
Benedict
same
pretty
day.
Quick.
We
Same
might
day.
see this
Yeah, I don't
the
think
smoke the same
It's
day.
usually a couple of
they're,
days.
they're not
3
gonna
days.
they're not gonna hang out in that room for 3 weeks or
The
anything.
longest
No.
conclave was over 2 years.
Yeah. And one of the rules now, and this is true, they make a joke about it, but it's true. After a certain amount of
They
days,
start cutting their food.
they cut the food down to bread and water.
Yeah.
So let me tell you, you look at some of those Cardinals, you think, oh yeah, bread and water, they're going to get right down to
Uh-huh.
it. It's-
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they're already, discussing between themselves
but
about it.
yes. And, a lot of Cardinals are giving speeches and talking, not because they're running, just they're prominent. And I think most of them that are probably expected to at least do a little bit of that, unless, because some of it's going to be, are you open to being Pope? Because guys have refused.
Well, evidently, the purpose of these gatherings before conclave is to identify the needs of the church.
Yes.
Then you go into conclave and say, who can fulfill these needs?
Yeah.
Right.
Because the pendulum swings again.
It does. So it'd be interesting to see who gets chosen. Honestly, myself, I'm hoping for a young guy. I'd like a long pontificate to come about. I don't want to see a caretaker pope for 5 years. I want to do this again in 5 years. I want to see somebody who's going to be there for a while.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a young guy from either Africa or Asia.
Quite possibly. Who knows? A European pope is probably not likely, but you never know.
Well,
be an American pope.
The leader,
No.
the leader in
Has
the,
hell
the
frozen
race,
over?
The leader in the race is Italian.
There is no such thing as a leader. Odds
On the
makers.
betting odds.
That's not a leader in the race. There is no race.
Okay,
Bookies
fine.
don't know that
Yeah.
church.
He who goes into a conclave a pope comes out a cardinal.
Yeah. Okay.
That is a truism. Although I got to say, a lot of people were hoping for Benedict, for Ratzinger to be elected pope in 2005,
Yeah.
and of course he was.
I would say he was. Where are you going? with
But there were a lot of other options that were possible.
this? Olio was an option in 2005.
he was.
Yeah.
There was some talk of him back then. Yeah. Of course, you don't find this out until much later, but because they're not supposed to talk about it either.
Even after conclave is over, they're still sworn to the oath of secrecy.
Yes, they are. They burn all the ballots, and they are not supposed to talk about it. But of course, people do. So, quick note:
They pay them enough.
do not watch the movie Conclave.
Well, you can watch it. It's a great entertaining movie, but it's all
I
wrong.
wouldn't even, from what I've heard of it, I wouldn't even say it's great entertainment.
It's
but
all wrong on how conclave
it
operates.
is absolutely all wrong, and the end result, yeah, no, a totally unbelievable end result. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but
If they haven't seen it by now, it's been out for a year.
well, it's not. Yeah, but it's not like that's a popular movie until Francis passed. It's been people been watching the crap out of it.
Here's the
since
thing,
because
Hollywood-
they think that movie is what's going to happen.
Hollywood
Oh.
portrays the end to be this big shocking thing, and within certain teachings of the church, it's not that big of a deal.
Okay, so we've got the bunch of us here together with the one atheist.
He's not
Who
an
do you-
atheist. He believes in God.
Who do you,
Does he? I don't know. He never says.
and he avoids that topic.
He does. He avoids.
His name is Martin Luther.
That doesn't
well,
mean anything.
that's because he's a contrarian to our
Yeah.
roles as deacons. That was how that mainly came about.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you know.
you know how he's a believer. We're drinking faithfully crafted, and he's not over there going, "It burns."
Well, that bottle wasn't blessed.
How do you know?
I don't know. I that's the you don't know that. Yeah.
There's two of us here that
I
can
think you take care of that.
No, this is true.
So, just from an outsider's thoughts, I think the pendulum will swing towards a Ratzinger type
Possibly.
individual.
I don't know. We had
To more of a theologian. Bergoglio is more of a pastoralist.
it's hard to say. You know,
Ratzinger is more of a writing theologian, doctrine type person.
I don't know. I don't know that you may have somebody that's more of a. And again, these terms do not make sense in the church, but they're the only ones we have. You may have a more conservative
Yeah.
pope, in other words, a more traditional pope, but I don't think you're going to see a theologian pope. Those are very rare. John Paul II, partially because he was developing theology of the body and some other things, and he was pope for 26 years. He is seen as one of those theologian popes.
Yeah.
But I think he really isn't, especially when you look at him compared to Ratzinger. Ratzinger, when he became Benedict XVI, honestly, that was in many ways, that was a great boon to the church and a great loss to the church because he never got to write his magnum opus, his own Summa, as he wanted to do, which is a shame. But he is one of the few popes that could be a doctor of the church.
Yeah.
That is a rare thing.
Time will tell, but I would not be surprised.
I'm leaning towards it's either going to be Tagley out of the Philippines or Turkson out of Ghana.
I don't have a very good sense. The only really cardinal that I'm familiar with, other than some of the Americans, who obviously are non-starters, is Cardinal Robert Serra. But I think he's of an age that would be a caretaker pope. And as much as I would like somebody like him, I think somebody younger. I would like somebody who is not as fond as unscripted, off-the-cuff comments on airplane press conferences.
Yes.
Things that can be taken out of context because the press will do that.
Yeah.
Well, they'll just make up their own stuff anyway. It's
And
nothing to do
I
with
think
context.
I mean,
Yeah, but if they don't have a sound bite, it doesn't go as far.
Yeah.
You're very much right in that the press and general conversation is going to do terms like conservative, progressive, whatever.
Yeah.
None of that means anything. Throw all that out. No pope is going to suddenly change church doctrine.
No.
Exactly.
It's not going to happen.
Really, what I want a Catholic pope. And we've never not had a Catholic pope.
Right.
Don't take that the wrong way.
Right. But the difference being, again, somebody like Benedict to somebody like Francis is
Just it's different styles,
it's a
different areas of
different-
focus.
Again, one that's more of a writer versus one who's more of a pastoralist.
I'll challenge you on something. Benedict and Francis are considered opposites on the political spectrum. But I challenge you to tell me one thing that Francis changed that Benedict had in place.
Right.
He
I can. He limited the Latin Mass again.
PLM.
Yeah. but substantially,
saying-
there's no
but
difference.
that's a practice. There's
But
no,
again,
that's no
it was-
doctrine.
It was
Yeah.
just a focus,
It's a marketing
an
change.
emphasis. Yeah,
Look
again,
over here at this part of the church.
a writer
I'm not gonna
versus
change
a
anything.
pastoralist.
Yeah, and you know, certainly Francis had his writings. He did not release the number of encyclicals at a rate of, say, somebody like John Paul.
Yeah.
John Paul was a great teacher,
Yes.
which, you know, a theologian is as well, but it is different than just being a theologian. So, you know, we've had a teacher pope, we had a theologian pope, we had a pastoral pope.
I like having a Jesuit in.
He's not really all that. He's not a typical Jesuit.
Yeah, he's
though.
not Jesuit. TTT.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It's like, yeah, it's, but you know, first, it's interesting because the Jesuits they pledged their loyalty to the Pope directly.
Oh yeah.
In a way that the other orders don't. So he leapfrogged all of his brother Jesuits. It's like, yeah, you guys report to me. You remember when you guys were, you know, treating me the way
Yes.
you were? Yeah, I got you now.
Are there certain rules about qualifications, or is it like Speaker of the House
Baptized
thing?
male,
And that's it? Yeah.
and not,
Catholic male.
Catholic male.
no, baptized male.
If you're baptized, you're Catholic.
You could be a baptized Baptist.
No, you can't. There's only one baptism.
I know.
Right.
So a man who's, let's say, Baptist, who is baptized, is technically eligible to become pope.
Yes, you're missing my point, though. Anybody who is baptized
There's only one
is
church.
a Catholic. There is only one church.
Okay, I understand.
So,
Right.
yes, that's just to tweak the Baptists out there because they would hate that.
So can I do one more rabbit hole before we get back to John?
Sure, I don't care.
Very quickly, and then you can crack the whip on its back, Captain. Just another thank you to Francis,
Mm-hmm.
who is a huge hero, as I've mentioned on the show. Bjorn over across the water is on a faith journey now,
Yes.
and Francis is being a little bit of his guide, his spiritual advisor.
Mm-hmm.
Deacon Francis, not Pope Francis.
Yes,
Okay.
our Francis.
He is being Bjorn's spirit animal, spirit
Mhm.
deacon.
You know, Monsignor Francis,
Yes.
as I would call him. So, just my appreciation for him. Looking out for
Mm-hmm.
my boy.
Well, now the one of the things I've been seeing a lot more articles on is that Gen Zs and millennials
Younger millennials.
are going back to churches.
Yep.
They are.
They're seeking what they're not finding in society.
Yes.
Yes. And that is a great thing, and it is our job, and it is a difficult job to entice them into the Catholic Church. One of the problems with that I am struggling with at my new assignment with the old pastor is I am now in charge of the OCIA program.
RCIA.
OCIA. You can call it what you want, but it is now the Order of Christian Initiation for Adults. Is when you become Catholic, it's not like joining the Baptists. You can't
No.
just start showing up and you're a full-fledged member, right?
Right.
You have to study what the church teaches and then agree to it.
Unless you get baptized young, those cradle Catholics.
That's called confirmation, where we make those.
Well, yes.
But yeah, we're talking about adults, and they're born into it, so it's not like they have a choice. So those who choose to convert, we don't make it easy on them. Now, it can be easier. Like if you have somebody that is already baptized, you don't have to go a full year or more in some places of a process to teach them everything about the Christian life. But it's something that it's hard for us to look as attractive as, say, Six Flags Over Jesus, where you can just show up and as long as you cut your check
Yeah.
every week, then they're
We're
happy.
there. Yeah.
They actually run credit checks.
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me. I do know that if you don't tithe the proper amount, you can get a call from it. At least it used to be that way. I don't know if it still is.
It still is.
But which I think is a little onerous. But hey, you signs up that you got to just
Well, or you could just lock the doors and demand the money.
We're not lock those doors. We're not leaving here till we have $40,000.
$1,000.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
Daddy needs a new watch.
Have you guys seen on HBO Max The Righteous Gemstones?
Yes, wonderful.
Oh my God, it is hilarious.
Fun.
Joel Osteen must hate that show.
Oh,
Well, that's serendipitous because I'm not a fan of Joel Osteen.
Joel is wonderful to watch.
No, he's not.
As
I
my
don't even
wife-
think he's good as a motivational speaker.
as my wife calls it, it's grifting for Jesus.
Yeah. Righteous Gemstones are very much, they
Yes.
are, which is interesting because they're not grifting in the traditional sense in that it's all a scam to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because they do appear in the show to be believers.
Oh yes.
Now, they are whack jobs.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But they're entertaining as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Just for clarity, the prosperity gospel is hokum.
So much
That's
for
the
that.
strongest
So
word
much.
you can use.
So much for that audience.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, I don't think they
Anyway,
were.
I think I have driven them off a long time ago.
Oh, dude, you there was nobody left to drive off by the time you
Yeah.
got here.
Okay.
Anyway,
Oh,
my thanks to our Francis
Mhm.
Yes.
for looking out for my boy and Robert.
So let's take it back to
Back into
Mr.
John
Hughes.
Hughes.
Mr. Hughes.
So his passing was a great loss in the sense that he was one of our icons.
Mhm.
Of course, by the time he had passed, his movie making days
It had been long over.
had been long over. But in many ways, I don't know that a whole lot of us really paid that much attention. He's not, because we were so busy watching his old movies all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'll still watch.
Oh, I mean, if 16 Candles is on,
Oh yeah, that's one of those gotta watch.
That's a stop. Like the episodes that we've done on movies that you stop.
That's one of
the
them.
channel.
Yeah.
Home Alone is
Candles.
one that we always watch at Christmas time.
Right.
That was
Regardless.
never
Whether it's Breakfast Club, 16 Weird Science.
Weird Science. I liked.
Weird Science is a great movie.
I mean, 16 Candles. I mean, it was okay. Pretty in Pink-
okay.
Pretty in Pink. I never liked.
Yeah, I thought it was.
They screwed Ducky over in that movie.
Oh, I don't know. I think Ducky got the better end of the deal at the end.
Oh yeah, well yeah, but I mean the lead screwed him over.
Yes. And, they had shot a version of that movie
Mm-hmm.
where they ended up together.
Yes, and
Um,
she didn't like it.
From what I've
realistically,
heard, I think it makes more sense for her character. Although honestly, the two of them, I don't think Andrew McCarthy and Molly Ringwald had a whole lot of on-screen chemistry.
No, none.
But when you're a teenager,
Yeah, McCarthy doesn't have chemistry with anybody.
with anybody. Yeah.
He's for some reason, and not a bad actor, but it just seems
He's
like
a little
he's so
flat.
distant from everyone else.
Yeah. Now,
Mm-hmm.
of course, what's his buddy? What's the actor's name? He's a great actor.
James Spader.
James Spader.
Spader.
Oh my gosh,
I love Spader.
He is phenomenal as the bad guy in that movie. But you're right, though. Ducky did get a bad rap,
Yep.
or a bad deal in the
He got
sense that.
screwed.
But I think he ended up with the better option at the end.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I never considered Molly Ringwald that much of a catch.
She was a teenager before teenagers were as affected by the hormones that are in everybody's water now.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
teenage girls today do not look like the teenage girls that we went to school with.
Oh hell no!
Hell,
They just-
94-year-old women don't look like the 94-year-old women that when we were growing up.
Exactly.
Look at Mamie Van Doren. Rawr.
Oh,
Anyways,
Have you seen her pictures lately?
no.
Look up Mamie Van Doren.
anyways,
She's contemporary of
Hold that thought.
Mansfield and Monroe,
right.
and all of that.
Yeah, we need to hurry up before he starts
Yeah.
talking about B. Arthur again.
Rawr.
No.
Oh,
it's-
God.
I will mute you if you go down that rabbit hole. So, anyways,
Now he's thrown
Pretty-
off completely.
Pretty in Pink. I liked Pretty in Pink for a lot of reasons.
Okay.
The Ducky character is one of them.
Yeah,
I think
his guy. I liked Cryer in it.
John Cryer was phenomenal in that. Did you guys ever see the 2.5 Men episode where they did a Halloween thing?
Yes,
And he dresses
And
up as Ducky?
as Ducky.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
that was awesome.
That was good.
That was excellent. because he even comes in and does that sliding thing that he does in the music store.
Oh,
in
yeah.
that episode. It was just phenomenal.
It was good.
Everybody loves
Annie
that.
Potts in that movie was great.
Yes.
She was. Annie Potts is just a wonderful actress.
I like her. She picks.
she is
she's
a
in.
wonderful
She's in.
actress.
She's gotten some very good roles that fit with her real well.
She has, yeah. And just there's a lot of quirkiness to that movie. It's not necessarily in the same vein as Breakfast Club and 16 Candles. It is a different dynamic, though. It's a poor versus rich as opposed to social cliques.
Yeah.
Because that's one
Yes.
thing. The poor versus rich is one of the things did not show up in Breakfast Club. Surprisingly, that was
Just
not.
a little bit with Claire. I mean, she is the one with the diamond earring.
She is,
Yeah.
but it wasn't an in your face.
Yeah.
The money aspect was not part of the conflict.
And if I remember correctly, she was the one who actually the Ali Sheedy character's the one who came from Money, didn't she?
Possibly. It's
Oh.
hard to say. I don't know. But the fact that she came from the wrong side of the tracks, and of course
Mhm.
Ducky going over to her dad to talk things over with him and all that.
Yeah.
Ducky was a better version of Farmer Ted.
Yeah.
A cooler
Mhm.
version in many ways.
Yeah, he
Harry
was-
Dean Stanton played the dad, right?
Harry Dean Stanton, yes.
Oh, I love Harry Dean Stanton.
Harry Dean was
Mhm.
awesome. And of course, he couldn't get a job. She was parenting him, which again, very Gen X in many ways.
Oh yes.
You mentioned Other Side of the Tracks in one of your comments. He left a lot of unproduced screenplays.
Yeah.
One of
A
which
ton of which.
was called The Grisbys Go Broke, and it was about a wealthy family that lost their fortune and had to move to the other side of the tracks.
Oh,
And as I was doing research, I'm like, that sounds familiar. And then
Schitt's Creek.
it's all about Schitt's Creek. So
Yeah.
some of his legacy is still being remade.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So that's one of all of his movies. That's probably I still love it quite a bit,
Mhm.
especially that soundtrack is great.
It is a
Love
great-
soundtrack.
The music that was picked for his films for the most part.
It is the soundtrack of our
Are
youth.
are
It really is.
iconic.
Yeah, yeah. The other big movie we haven't talked about though is Ferris Bueller.
Mm-hmm.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off is Ferris is the guy everybody wishes we were
Mm-hmm.
in high
Definitely.
school. He is the coolest dude, but he is also the most humble dude in the sense that he does not think he's better than anybody else, other than the teachers and the principal.
Yeah.
Those are the only people that and adults in general. Because again, it's the problem with authority
I
thing.
believe the principal's serving time now, isn't he?
He should. He broke into Ferris's house.
Oh no.
No,
Child molestation.
Really?
yeah,
Is
yeah.
he? I did not know that. How sad.
yeah.
And yeah.
Jeffrey Jones.
Jeffrey Jones.
Huh.
Yes.
I did not realize
He
that.
ran afoul of the law, I believe.
Oh
or
yes,
some-
yes he did.
I missed that. But again,
Running
Ferris
afoul of
Bueller-
the law.
Yeah, that he did that. Yeah. I didn't
Oh, I
catch that.
thought you were saying you miss it yourself.
No.
No.
That would be perhaps my brother, but not me.
Oh.
Although I'm pretty sure he doesn't miss that either. So, anyways, with Ferris Bueller, it's more about the sibling rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that, it's a different aspect.
That it
of,
is.
Which is probably Jennifer Grey's best role that I've ever seen her do.
There's Mr. Nebo.
Oh, well, she ends up with Charlie Sheen out of it.
Yes, Charlie Sheen and she have probably one of the best scenes in the movie.
Yes, in the jail.
Mm-hmm. And it is it's a different aspect of our high school years.
Oh, yeah.
The sibling rivalry thing, and of course the clueless parents. He gets a computer, she gets a car, a
Yes.
Fiero.
Yes.
How 80s, how mid 80s.
Yeah.
But his buddy Cameron though, this is the part I like about Ferris. He is the best friend we all deserved because he truly looked out for his buddy Cameron. Had his best interests at heart to a certain degree. It's a skewed way of viewing his best interest, perhaps, because he makes him take out the car, and that is, Ferris has a dark side. He's very manipulative.
Oh, yes.
But how many of us had a friend like that?
Why was anybody looking? Why were you looking at me?
Well, if you didn't
What did
have
I
the friend
do?
like that, you probably were the friend.
or you had a very boring experience in high school. You know, Ferris was not boring. And of course, you have the great song and dance numbers.
Yes.
You
Yes,
know,
there were.
Float.
On the float where he's singing Donkashane
Shing.
and then doing the Beatles
Donkashane.
Twist and Shout.
Yep.
You know, but Cameron Fry, he's one of the great characters as well of that movie. And of course, Mia Sara is Mia Sara.
Mia Sara. Yeah, but if I remember correctly, wasn't Cameron Fry in like his 30s when he filmed that?
He was older. I don't think he was in his 30s though.
Yeah, he was.
You know, the
he was
love
old.
interest, I think it was thrown in there because if you take her out of the movie, there's really no change to the movie.
That's very true. It could have just been the two of them going out. Although going to pick her up from school
Yes.
Yeah.
was great.
Al-
Changing the answering machine messages to a fake funeral home message and all of that.
Oh yeah.
Of course, this also is a little bit of on the good side of the tracks kind of stuff because you got to be a family from money to
Have
do,
an answer machine.
well, no, not to have an answering machine so much, but to have two lines.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
they called the same house.
Yeah.
So Mia had her own phone number.
Yeah.
You know, and of course, Ferris, of course, had the computer, which in those days, that's a $5,000 purchase.
It was.
Not to mention the synthesizer and all that.
Oh,
he had some
yeah.
expensive stuff in
Toys.
his
Those
bedroom.
were
Oh, yeah.
expensive toys.
Yeah. So honestly, he got more money spent on him because that Fiero wasn't a super expensive vehicle. Although the head, you know, the speakers and the headrests were kind of cool back in the day, but
Actually,
you know,
But he still had to bum rides off of
but he
people.
still had to bum rides off people.
He could have been the
Alan-
walrus.
Alan Ruck was born in 56.
Oh wow,
And Ferris Bueller's Day Off was released in 86. So he was close.
so it was close.
28,
Okay,
29.
28, 29.
yeah.
Playing a
So-
high schooler.
Well, you know, but you know, we all knew a guy in high school that looked like he was 28 or 29.
Yeah, that's the guy
Yeah.
you sent to the liquor store.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, for a lot of us, we just went to the liquor store anyways.
Max Liquors.
You know, and just because back then it wasn't as hard to talk somebody into selling to you.
ABC wasn't busting people like they do now.
Exactly. And we don't mean the people buying, we mean the people selling.
Selling.
Yes.
Yes.
Now you had places that definitely would not because I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
get out of here, kid. But
People
you-
that have morals.
yeah.
Well, then you would just pay the drunk that was standing out front
Exactly.
$20 to go in and buy it for you.
Yes.
Well, 20 was a lot back then. I don't think any of
Yeah.
us had $20 back then.
And then what he'd do is spend your money and sneak out the back.
Exactly. But anyways, but all of these movies hit different aspects
Mm-hmm.
of what it meant to grow up. All right.
Yeah.
And that was his genius. Even though he came from a time that was different,
Mm-hmm.
far simpler, grew up in as far as culture. Because even in our culture in the 80s is still very simple compared to today, but it was still more complex than it was in his time.
Mm-hmm.
He still managed to capture the essence of adolescence in the 1980s.
Coming of age.
And yeah, they're all coming of age
Yeah.
stories, but they are also coming of age in a particular era. They really are. Those stories
Yeah, I mean,
only work
yeah.
in that time period.
yeah, it's a mark, a finite point in history, and again, it's not a coincidence that the authority figures are largely boomers.
Yep.
Our contempt for the boomers and our struggles to find our way after they've used up all the free love and
Right?
and it's like,
There
well,
was still a lot of free love in the 80s.
well, they've already taken this cultural journey to undo what they lived in,
Mhm.
and then that left us with nowhere to go.
Well,
To build our own, because the society they rebelled against has been discredited. We didn't like what we saw of them. We saw them as jokes. So what was left? Well, we had to build it ourselves.
which is very Gen X. But we also went, pretty much the opposite of them, and we didn't go back to the 50s, but we went back to a more traditional outlook on life than was the common outlook in the 60s and 70s.
And we're being influenced by a society that has turned an economic corner.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So we're looking at the boomers and going, look, you all are the ones that screwed this up. You're all the ones that through the 70s screwed all this up and we didn't have 2 quarters to rub together. You know, now a guy from the 50s is back and now there's money again.
Yep.
You know, and we don't want to be crass and commercial, but we still like having a few coins in our pocket.
We do. We do. And, you know, that's
and God knows our status symbols in this day and age are what? Motor vehicles, McMansions, and iPhones. I mean, look at the way people look at people with
the poor.
The androids.
The androids.
Yeah, the green people.
Downtrodden.
Yeah, well, you know, and part of that is our fault because we, you know, we raised a lot of the people that are into that sort of thing. Because I think most of us don't give a flying rat's ass about that. But you know, we also our rebellion against how we grew up produced the generations that we also rail against in many ways.
Yeah,
but our rebellion was perhaps overtaking care of them because we were left alone.
Yeah, we wanted them to have a different experience from us.
Yes,
we maybe overdid it a bit.
Yeah,
we coddled it too much.
We probably
there is
did.
no maybe about it. We way overdid it.
But you know,
that's where the helicopter parents come from.
Yeah.
Well, not all of us were helicopter parents, but because that's still a huge thing. But we certainly started it, and I think it really took full effect with the later part of Gen X into the millennial parents. And I get that. You know, the world does seem to be a more dangerous place now than it was when we were kids.
I'll argue it's not.
I said seem.
Okay.
It's because of the news.
And it is partially because of the news. But, you know, there weren't all the school shootings when we were growing up. Partially that's because everybody else was armed. You know, they just went out to their truck and got their weapons.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't want to go shooting at a place that's fully armed.
Exactly.
Where was that? Oh, there was a Texas. They had some idiot decided to rob. It was either a stop and rob or a liquor store in Texas. And he was
obviously somebody not from Texas.
Well, but he was actually shot by everyone in the store.
That's awful.
I mean, it was not just the guy behind the counter, but there were like 3 customers that shot the guy too.
Yeah, they all pulled on him. Yeah.
Yeah, it was you know.
So definitely different culture and environment there.
Oh yes.
But you know, when we rebelled against how we grew up, it was, you know, we paid more attention. I think we did it partially by paying more attention to our kids.
That or wearing Merry Widows and fishnets.
Well, that too, you know. We certainly had our escapades.
That we did.
Growing up.
That are not recorded on video to be
thank God.
Put on YouTube.
Some of it is.
Very little.
Very little.
There's very little.
Very little.
There's
a lot of Polaroids floating around.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because you know, to be on YouTube, you know, somebody had to take that either film or videotape, had it transferred to digital. I mean, that's a whole thing.
Yeah, I know.
So that's money. But
that's right, kids. When we die, don't go through any videotapes that aren't marked with something on the label.
Matter of fact,
even if they're any videotapes,
even if
throw them all away.
Yeah. If they are, unless they are commercial tapes.
Well, no, even some of those we recorded over them.
I never did that. I paid for that damn thing. I'm gonna
challenge anybody in this room. If you have a VHS tape, could you play it today?
Yeah, I got one in there.
Oh, okay.
Not here, but on the side of the wall. Yeah.
Presuming
it still works
in storage.
Yeah, but I have one.
No, I've actually got a few.
Okay, my wife and I, we were doing marriage prep, and we hadn't done it for a couple of years, and we had all the material that shows a video on DVD, and so this couple was coming over to our house, and we're like, okay, we got to get ready, and so I started scrambling around. I'm like, oh my God, we don't have a DVD player anymore because everything's streamed nowadays.
Yeah. Well, if you have an Xbox, you can play it on that.
Yeah, didn't. I had to break out an old laptop from
there. You go. Yeah.
Closet.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, again, our muse. I think Martin, you put it the best way. John Hughes was the Gen X muse, in the sense that
tells our story.
He tells our story. I mean, in a way, he also empowered us to tell our own stories.
Yeah, I mean, very much Breakfast Club and Ferris Bueller are two very, very different films
Yes.
about very different things. But it tells both sides of the Gen X story.
Yep.
And like you said, Ferris Bueller in particular empowers us to very much tell our own story.
Yes.
And and to
It broke the fourth wall.
craft our way away from well-meaning martinet adults.
Yeah, I think you could say that Breakfast Club showed us how to move beyond the artificial barriers we've put
We put around ourselves.
in high school, especially. And Ferris Bueller goes the final step in saying, "Screw you! I'm just going to be me and deal with the consequences." And both Ferris and Cameron do that.
Yeah.
Now I still think Cameron got the crap beat out of him when his dad got home, but
Yeah. It was a fake Ferrari.
doesn't matter. It's still at the bottom of the hill.
Well, yeah. That house just sold recently again. It sells every couple of years.
Yeah, it's interesting that house is in a suburb of Chicago because it does not look like it would be. It looks like it's far more rural or upstate or something. Not upstate in Illinois, obviously, but you think like upstate New York sort of thing.
Yeah. But it's just Bueller, the fully self-realized,
Yes, that's a great way to put
fully
it.
self-realized,
Self-actualized.
self-actualized. I'm going to be me, and better yet, you can be you, and
Yep.
and we can still be cool.
Yes.
Because you just don't find Gen Xers who just dislike other Gen Xers. I mean, personally, once you get to know someone, yes, you might dislike them.
Oh, absolutely.
But generally, you meet another Gen Xer, it's all benefit of the doubt time. I mean, it's
Oh, absolutely.
You're very much, hey, we're going to be cool.
Right. We have a certain shared background in history that is, no matter what your particular clique was,
Yeah,
we've overcome that.
we've overcome it, and we've just
And hopefully,
we're together. You and me, we're together.
right. Hopefully, every generation would do this. I'm not entirely
They
sure
just-
that
they
happens
don't.
anymore.
They don't. They
You know?
really don't.
No.
They will keep their splits. They will keep their divisions. And Gen X, maybe I'm just reading too much into Gen X experience, but Gen X does not. As you get older, you drop all those distinctions and those things that separated you, and you're just cool with everybody
Hell,
in Gen
ain't
X.
nobody got time for that stuff.
Exactly.
I'm gonna like you for the person you are, or dislike you for the person
Yeah,
you are,
and-
regardless of
Yeah.
Right.
what you are.
So
Right. Again, I think that goes back to the flexibility that is inherent in being an Xer.
thank you, John Hughes, for teaching us who we were
Yeah, absolutely.
and showing us, hey,
That-
everybody's got shit, so just deal with it and be together.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say he gave us permission to do all this stuff because as an Xer, nobody gave us permission to do
Yeah,
crap.
No.
He just
Um,
he just
did
showed
But
it.
it showed us a path.
It showed us that everybody else was doing it too, and we weren't as alone as we thought.
Exactly,
We weren't as alone as we thought.
Brother Andre.
Well, until we show up someplace on Thanksgiving and everybody's like, "Why the hell are you here?"
Well, that really doesn't happen.
That's
to
every
most
year.
Of us.
Yeah, it doesn't happen to most of us. That may just be your family.
No. We went up to Michigan.
Yes, in Michigan. Yes,
Oh.
yes. Good
We
point.
drove all the way up there. Nobody's there.
Yeah, nobody's there. So what are you doing here? Yeah,
We heard you
that's
were
true. I
coming.
forgot about that.
Yes.
We heard you were coming.
Yeah.
Uh,
And then
Hey, where's my dad? Well, he went to Kentucky to hunt.
yes.
yeah.
Well, Jeffrey Jones is serving 3 concurrent life sentences for
Holy crap!
for sexually abusing children.
What is the point in 3 concurrent? I mean, it's
Well,
if you're gonna give him 3, make him serve them consecutively. Otherwise, it's just 1.
because
No,
if he
life
he-
sentence can be 7
he
years.
he can qualify for.
I get that, but if they're concurrent,
Well, and he wasn't prosecuted until he was much older.
Here,
Still.
there's a legal reason. If something comes up and they say, "Oh, the evidence found in trial 1 is invalid," and we're throwing it out, he's still convicted of 2 other.
right? But whether he's serving consecutively or concurrently, the other charges still exist.
Yeah,
and
but you said what? Just give him 1. Well, if that.
no, I didn't say just give him 1. I said it is just 1.
Okay.
If
Yeah.
you want,
It's just one sentence.
yeah. It's just effectively it's because the charges are
But yeah,
separate, So
I mean, yeah,
if you're
he could-
convicted of one, or
he
three.
could pull parole on one, but not the other two.
Well, I
That'd
think
be
once you're
ironic.
convicted, I don't think you get paroled by sentence. It's just
Okay,
your term.
no,
As long as all three aren't overturned,
you might have
still
been
gotta
reading
serve.
about the wrong Jeffrey Jones, homie.
It wasn't.
that wouldn't surprise me.
He's on the
Oh, no.
Well, it
registration.
all depends. I hear that
Oh, okay, different Jeffrey Jones.
See, this is why we have to fact check
Hold
him.
on.
5 years probation, counseling, and
someone call
requirement.
our attorney. We're
Oh,
going to be
yes.
sued for
Okay, it's
slander.
freaking
So it was
slandered
a
him.
Hollywood conviction.
So, all right. So, Mr. Jones, we apologize
fully retract for the
for the Imperator.
Imperator statement. We didn't say shit.
That's right. If you need to reach him, send your just shoot an email to us, and we will get you in contact with
Yeah.
Mr.
He only molested one 14-year-old boy. that was
Allegedly, can we
convicted
say allegedly until we?
No, he was convicted.
Okay.
So he
He
does
was-
have convictions in
he
California
does.
and Florida, but he's not serving
Yes,
life
not serving
sentences.
life sentences.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
I mean, not good. I mean, good that we have
Yes.
set the record straight.
Yeah.
All right. On that note,
On
Yeah.
that note, he should be getting.
I think that
Your attorney can
yes.
contact the Imperator directly.
exactly. You are so right, Martin. We definitely need that on a button. Hold that thought.
Yeah.
So we could go on and on talking about his various movies, but again, he's our muse.
Mhm.
He is our cultural touchstone.
That is.
I think we need to do a separate episode with Home Alone because we glossed over it. We mentioned it, but
Yeah.
that's a whole episode in and of itself.
It is, but I mean, for as far as the impact on us, which is where I was going with it,
We were already grown ups by the time that hit, though.
yeah. I mean, that was less about us than it was he's just telling a really funny, farcical story.
Yeah.
Which is fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So
In Francis's absence, Robert, what's next, brother?
next episode is Code of Honor, and because we are here at Studio R, I will be captaining that. And
Yay.
as usual, I do not have a quote for the boys yet because I like to give them that on the episode.
He wants
Also,
to- he
I
wants
have to
to
spend a few
roll-
minutes picking that out still. I've been a little bit busy.
On the fly.
He likes to see the raw reactions.
I
Well,
do.
He also thought we were doing a different director today, even though it was his suggestion.
Well, I didn't think we had announced it. And because usually Martin updates the schedule,
Yeah.
and it was not updated.
I've been
so,
lax.
which is not a big deal.
Slacker.
Um,
Slacker.
Slacking like Ferris.
Yeah.
Nah, because when
Ferris.
Ferris slacks, it's with a purpose.
Yeah.
I think that is very much with a purpose. I still think he went into politics, though.
Next episode.
Oh, he is the quintessential politician.
Yeah. Next
What did Mia
episode,
Farrow
I
go
want
into?
I want a writing
Sarah, rather.
update from Robert.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can do that. I certainly can do that. All right, gentlemen, we will see you at the next episode.
We hope you enjoyed another pointless discussion of eternal questions. Remember, new episodes drop every second and fourth Friday at 6 a.m. Eastern, just in time for your morning commute. And every fifth Friday, we drop a special Hoopajube episode. Spread the word we are on all the major platforms, and leave us a review. That helps others find us. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, as well as our website, snakesandotters.com. Join us next time, same snake time, same otter channel.